Okay, so we finished the mocking request stuff. Okay, and I'm going the next step. I'm going to talk a little bit, then we can keep going, or if you want to keep going on the exercises, you can keep going on the exercises. So a good chunk of Node.js proposition, it's all about the ecosystem and the community. So, okay, just to give you a hint of a scale, it's if you go on module stats. Okay, well, sorry, it's not. That's module stats. Nope. Modulestat.com. No, is that Wi-Fi? Module, what's the name of it? Module count. Can't find it. Anyway, so James, do you? Oh, module counts. Yeah, here we go. No worries. I found the site that I was looking for. Okay. Okay, I just want to give you a hint of the size of the situation. Okay, so let's do all time. Okay, so just wanted to show you this graph because this is probably one of the most important graphs that you want to see on the about Node.js and the NPM community. So Node and NPM specifically has solved the problem of software usability at scale. What does it mean? Well, it means that there are over 2 million modules that you can use on NPM, ready for you to take advantage of. 2 million. Seems a lot of modules, right? What does it mean? There's a lot of crap. Okay? Funnily enough, that's the problem. Okay? The fundamental problem is that there is a lot of stuff on NPM that might even be popular that you might not want to be using at all. Okay, let me make you a fun example. You are all you are familiar with some of the front-end stuff, right? Sorry, not Lambda, but Lambda. Okay. Do you know this library? Lambda. Have you ever heard about this library? So one of the criteria when evaluating a library is looking at the amount of downloads. Okay? It's downloaded 10 million times per week. Seems great, right? Then it's been last published 5 months ago. Okay, so that's the things that I would look. Then I would probably open up the repository and check if it's been actively developed. And somebody has merged a commit on April 27th. So still maintained, okay? Still moving, still maintained. It has some issues open, some PRs open. Seems good, right? A lot of maintainers, you see, look at this. It has a lot of people that can do stuff if it happens, okay? So looking at this page, would you use this library or not? Yes. Would you will use it? Yeah. Then you'll shoot yourself in the foot. It's one of the top most offenders, biggest offender in terms of performance problems in applications. Every single time somebody uses this, it's going to not work well in your code. Every single time. This is true, by the way, for all the functional stuff in JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript is missing quite a few features in terms of the runtime to be able to be a good pure functional language. So if anybody tells you that wants to use a functional flavor that you can totally do in JavaScript, they are setting up yourself for failure, okay? It's not a good pattern for JavaScript. So especially creating a lot of closures is actually is relatively expensive, okay? So you might be in trouble.
Importantly, if the word understand, it will work. It will do exactly what it says it's doing. It's just going to be slow. Very, very slow.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. You look at the page, something seems very legit. Okay? Big, shooting yourself in the foot. Okay? Big time. I'm going to make some other counterexamples. Okay? Let's go some other libraries. So let's talk about my favorite one. This is my favorite library. It's Mongoose. Have you ever used Mongoose? Okay, you've used Mongoose. Okay, have you got Mongoose in production? Are you happy about it? Or somebody is, are you happy about Mongoose in production? So Mongoose is basically, I define this library, which is, by the way, downloaded 1 million times per week, the source of all evil of Node.js. Like, there is nothing worse than Mongoose in Node. Okay, just to clarify, it's part of the mean stack, by the way. So why? The reason, it's this website. So it's even explaining their website, okay? You can even open up their website, and they even tell you why you should not be using it. Okay, so if you look at these first 2 sentences of this page, okay, it's actually a random page on their doc, but it totally explains the reason why you should not be using this library. So it tells you that MongoDB has implemented a join functionality. However, internally in the database. However, the authors of Mongoose are so much more intelligent and such better engineers than the team writing a database that they wrote their own inside the library. Now, these few sentences I have a PhD, okay? So they've burned the 20 years of research on database development to ashes and use it to feed some cows and so on. It's totally, like the level of stuff that is written. If somebody says something like that, it's not, verify for yourself what they say, okay? Because if you don't, then you are in trouble. It's the problem, what these lines are saying, and this is very bad, they are saying that it can while you are navigating your objects, it can automatically fetch data for you. And because it's doing that, you actually don't know what will be the actual impact at load of your models. And this is extraordinarily bad for your applications. So be very careful, okay? You have all your background or not in computer science and experience. Do not think that the background that you have matured in the previous language or community or job that you had, if you had one, whatever, it does not apply, okay? Always read what is written in the, I just wanted to make an example of something that will it's totally fine in the tutorial, and then will come back biting you big time whenever you are in trouble, okay? So I mentioned 2 things that you will find in a lot of tutorials and stuff, okay? So I'm going to show you another one. Bluebird, downloaded 20 million times per week. Have you ever heard about Bluebird? Are you using Bluebird today? You don't even know that you're using, right? Everybody's using this thing because it's deep in some dependency tree. So you probably have it somewhere lurking around. Now, the problem with Bluebird, it's actually predate native promises. So this thing was used when JavaScript did not have promises in their code. Fun, right? But now JavaScript has actually native promises. So what the heck, why we are still using something that's useless, that's a replacement? The native stuff is definitely better, okay? So use the native one. I'm making some counterexample on stuff that it's actually good, okay? So let's show you another package. It's called Minimist. When you have heard of this package? Somebody, a few people. Look at how much time is downloaded. It's a lot of downloads, okay? 46 million per week. It's a lot of downloads, okay? So this module, it parses command line arguments. By the way, Node.js just shipped a command line, a parsing argument in this latest release. Hooray for Node. Anyway, this is the simplest way you can parse command line arguments in Node.js. It's great. Last time it was published, it was 3 months ago. The website is pretty clear. There's some pull request. What would you say? It's maintained, maybe. Would you use it or not? Yes. OK. Yeah, this is my go-to library. By the way, first bit to know is anything that Substack has done is great. Substack is one of the original Node.js hackers that built this community. So Substack is somebody that if you see a library from him, is probably very stable and very good. OK? So just so that you are aware, OK? So just to make another example, OK? This is the fourth most downloaded module on NPM. Look at the download numbers. Look at the stupid download numbers. Look at the download numbers is actually stupid. Because it's unfathomable. 100 million downloads per month, per week. Like it's. OK. This page has build error. Good start. It has not been shipped for 2 years. OK. And would you use it or not? Look what organization is maintaining it. So this is something that comes from the Node.js GitHub org. So, well, it's us maintaining the thing. OK? So we haven't released it because it had no need to be released, but we are actually going to ship a new release now after the conference. So we didn't want to break everybody before the conference, but we are going to actually be releasing this soon. We are going to cut the V4 release of this soon. So that would be fun. James, do you think I need to signal NPM that the fourth most downloaded module, I'm going to ship it? Because this is being problematic, OK? Just to give you a hint of the size of certain things, OK? The curve is very steep, though. So this is one of the top ones, but the lowest ones are way less downloaded, OK? So, OK. I hope I'm trying to give you some criteria on how I pick modules, OK? Picking modules is to some extent a form of art, okay? What I typically do is I go in and look at what are their dependencies and what they depend upon. So, for example, let me pick something. What can I pick? This is very popular. Okay. Actually, this is actually good. So have you heard of Socket.io? It's great, right? Everybody has used Socket.io. Would you use Socket.io today? Somebody says yes, somebody says no. Yes. Why would you use Socket.io today?
Some features like automatic reconnect to WebSocket and stuff instead of reinventing the wheel.
Which is a good way of saying. However, it comes with a lot of other features, other old stuff that's totally not needed in today's world. So what I've done recently when I had to do this type of things, I have actually implemented that little bit of reconnect logic on top of inside my app. Okay, so I would not use. It's a great choice to use Socket.io, but I would not really use Socket.io in any new projects coming forward because the problem it was born to solve, it's gone. So Socket.io was born to provide fallbacks when WebSockets were not available. But now WebSockets are available in all supported browsers. So we should just use the native stuff and not the rest, okay? At least that's my personal view of the topic. Also consider that scaling WebSocket is a massive pain. Massive pain. So before thinking of doing WebSockets, think again. Don't do WebSockets, okay? Really don't do WebSockets, okay? And I'm just saying that the next chapter on the course is actually real time. Oops, okay? But I'm not. Don't do WebSockets. In general, okay? It's not. If you can get away without, it's way better to get away without. So, somebody asked, so a lot of companies need logging, okay? You will probably need to do some logs. So, a few companies that I've seen around, and some people would say, oh, I'll just use console log, okay? Console log is a debugging utility. It's not a logging mechanism. It's called console log, but it's not a logging mechanism, okay? It's fun, but the way it is implemented, it's first, too unreliable, and second, not equal. It comes to be very weird because it needs to support a lot of things. Like it's the same thing that you can actually use it when if you debug Node. Oh, have you ever debugged Node? Let me show you how I debug Node, which is probably not the way you debug Node. So, okay, so you have your Node server, right? That you can do Node server and it starts. Oh, so eject, okay. Okay, great, okay. So we have our Node server, right? So how I debug, the way I debug Node is I just do node -- inspect on the server. You will see that it's printing some stuff here, debugger listening. Then I go in here and open up the more tools, developer tools. Okay, that's actually no. I do crom -- inspect. you see that Node.js comes up. Have you ever seen this, by the way? No? OK. So you go and you open it up. And now you are actually, so you see that there is the console stuff showing. And now you can actually do, if you do sources, you can actually see your code running. OK? So this is, you need to add a folder and repository. OK. So too big, too much stuff. Anyway. And here we go. Lot of code. You see that I have a lot of code in this thing, in this machine. Whistle stop working, so I have here, I can show my routes and stuff. Here we go. Select. Now you can see, yeah, allow. You can see that I showed up some of my stuff, and I can, for example, put a breakpoint in here, and I can put a breakpoint. And then when I'm running this, I need to pass all the things here. Let's put another breakpoint on the get. So here we go. So I'm actually doing the get thing. And I'm running it, and you see that this pops up, and it actually shows that I'm here. And I have the local scope, I have my reply and request, and I have this, and I have the closures, and then so on and so forth. OK? So I'm very effective in using this library, this system for debugging in my applications, OK? And so on. You can see that the logging, these logs, these logging lines that you've seen here, the fact that the request was received here is not showing up in the console, in console. The reason is console log gets automatically captured by the inspector, and it's not getting back to the other one is just getting back to the terminal directly. So console log, it's really great for debugging. Not that great for structured logging. The way you want to log stuff in your app is you want to log it by using, for example, a new line delimited JSON. This is very popular. Okay? So basically, you put all your logs in a single JSON document, and then you divide that by new lines, and then you ship that JSON document to, let's say, Elasticsearch or Datadog, or you name the library, the system that you like the most, okay? And so you have those logging lines, those logging structure, okay? So there are quite a few systems that you can use for logging, okay? One of the most popular one is a library called Winston. It's great. Totally, go ahead and use it. Winston is a great library. Okay? However, old, is maintained by a lot of people. It has a lot of downloads. It has a release soon, and it's great, okay? Great library. I would recommend to use my own, but that's me. Okay? I would recommend you to use Pinot, but that's my library, the thing that I wrote, so I'm going to totally be... I have stickers, by the way. So it's a tiny library. It's faster, as it says on the tin. It's greener because it's faster, so it burns less trees to do the same thing. So it's... and it's great. You can check it out. Okay, it just do, the other one is more flexible. Winston can do anything. Pinot just do JSON logging. It has some really great capability within. So, for example, it provides you structured you can actually, with it, you can do both synchronous logging and asynchronous logging. And you can actually control that. Okay, like when you do console log, you're not in control. When you use Winston, you're not in control. When you use Pinot, you are actually in control on what you want, how you want to log, and how much you want to, you are willing to lose in case of a failure, because that's always the problem, right? Whenever you are logging stuff, whenever you are not doing something right now or asynchronously in the future, you might actually be losing some. OK, you'll be back. Bye, James. And you're actually losing some, you can actually lose some logs, OK? So you can actually control that, OK? There has been a few pull requests to it. So I'm showing a few stuff. So this is Pinot. It's popular enough, OK? There has been, it's a big org, as you can see. But I just wanted to show you. Internally, we use this library called Sonic Boom, which is what we use to actually have all this functionality internally for streams. OK? And the greatest thing is that some friend of ours did some really good PR. Some friend of ours that works at Netflix did some good PRs on it to improve and make sure that logs are actually managed in a very good way for them. So this goes as much as I can say, but you can draw your own conclusions. So anyway, it works great, OK? It's very solid. OK, that's what it is. That's what I want to say. OK, it's built for performant users. It provides asynchronous logging. It can also do threaded logging. You know that Node.js has, so how many of you know that Node is single-threaded? How many of you think Node.js is single-threaded? OK, you're wrong. Node.js is multi-threaded. Fun. So how does it work? First of all, there is a thing called the main thread, which is where you execute your JavaScript. OK. However, there are, first of all, ancillary threads that are used internally by Node.js for doing certain internal operations of Node. So there are multiple threads involved, first. Second one, you can actually create other JavaScript threads by using worker threads. So you could potentially offload a certain part of your CPU, certain part of your application to a secondary thread. For example, if you want to improve certain part of the performance of your app, which is very important because certain things might be blocking and you want to not, might be blocking the main loop and you want to be able to handle them in a much more consistent way, OK? We talked a little bit about data validation, OK? So if you want to go data validation, the library that I use the most is called AJV. AJV is a library that I use within Fastify. And again, is a validator for JSON schema. So it's great. Again, another little beast of heavyweight in terms of downloads. But downloads alone are not the main driver, OK? Downloads are one of the decision-making points. Something to keep, if you want to try to know the status, is this library called, this service called AJV, OK? Sorry, socket.dev. It's a new startup, and it's done by Feroz, he's a friend of mine. You see, I'm going to show you Fastify and show you that it's not, you know, it's what it is, OK? So it's not perfect, OK? So this shows you gives you some ideas on the status, okay? Note that it has some bugs because it detects some stuff that there is some problem with the license, but there is one. So anyway, it says multiple licenses, but one, I don't know. It's anyway, it's a good tool to measure some of the stuff, okay? Other stuff, it's, yeah, you could actually get it from SNCC on it, okay? Shows you the health score, okay? So how much security, if it's influential, maintained, active. So you can try, for example, Express. Okay. For example. What can we try? What do you want to try? Here we go, SQLite tree. You see, it has 92. I don't know the reason for 92 and not higher, but it's great, okay? I use SQLite tree a lot, so it's actually a good library. So they did a big rewrite lately. So I don't know if you know, but they did a massive rewrite. So it's actually way better after the rewrite, but that's my 2 cents. I didn't know this was at Ghost. I'm pretty sure they migrated, they changed ownership, whatever. Anyway, have you got some questions on how to choose? I hope I covered enough, okay, on the choosing libraries. Oh, now, yes, we should talk a little bit about HTTP clients, okay? HTTP clients is one of my favorite topics. So the few of you that have used Node, what HTTP client are you using? Like if you need to do an HTTP call from Node.js to another service, what do you use? Axios. Postman is just a client, okay. Axios, okay. Fetch, the new one. Happy days, okay. Okay, you use Axios. Okay, Axios is a great library. It's a really great library. Lot of downloads, lot of stuff. It's great. Okay. Is there something better though? Okay, that you can use. Do you know? Nothing better? So, for example, myself and a few other people on the Node.js team, I've been working on, I'm going there, I've been working on a full replacement of the full HTTP stack in Node. It's called Untitled, okay, which it's growing, okay, it's growing in popularity. Just to give you a hint, a year ago, he had 51,000 downloads per week, and now it has 1.5 million. So it's actually growing. Okay. It's also very good theme for these days because it has a Stranger Thing theme and whatever. You can it's a lot of fun. Okay, we should have changed it. We should get a badge from Netflix here. Okay, it's anyway, it's TLDR. You should actually be using this if you are doing a lot of HTTP calls in Node. Okay, and not that Axios is problematic or anything. Axios is great. However, there is a big gap in overhead between the two that is more or less insurmountable at the end of it, okay? And I'm not talking about fetch, okay? I'm going to talk about fetch in a second. So there was a problem in the community. There is one of the most popular library was called Node Fetch. You ever heard about Node Fetch, right? What they've done is they migrated to ESM, breaking everybody, big time. So a lot of people cannot install Node Fetch cannot use Node Fetch. Okay, they can't. Because they can't use a new one. They said, you might be looking for the V2 docs, because that's what everybody's using. The V2 is like all the common JS stuff that we talked about. So a lot of people have been migrating out of Node Fetch in the last year or so. Okay. It's what it is, okay? I'm just wanted to mention pros and cons and everything, okay? So it's great. It's a great library. I love Node Fetch, okay? It's just not native fetch. It's called Node Fetch, and it's not even following the standard. So even the name is wrong, because a lightweight module being fetch API to Node, it doesn't. It's not spec compliant. So it's whatever, okay? So this is one of the biggest concern when a lot of people were asking Node.js to ship fetch. We work a lot to ship fetch in Node, and the result is not great, okay? So I'm not recommending a lot of people to use fetch in Node yet. It's still experimental and still too early, probably. But because certain things have not been improved enough, okay, internally, in terms of there are certain problems on the internals of Node that needs to be resolved before having a performant fetch. The actual problem are actually very funny. So I'm not going to go too much into the actual problems. But it's actually, we need to fix those so that you can have an actual good fetch implementation. Otherwise, can't do much. So I talk this, talk that, and blah, 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 blah. What do I need to cover? Authenticate. I think we covered most of the stuff for modules. Okay. Have you got any specific questions about some modules or some functionality that is missing? There is one that I haven't covered yet. So I've testing. Okay, go for it. Yes, I can. Don't use HTTP2. That's the gist. Or, okay, let me expand a little bit on it. Okay, the best way to use, like, there has not been a good case of using HTTP2 in Node.js apart from gRPC. So gRPC is built on top of HTTP2, and I have not seen anything other than gRPC being successful on Node. So in other terms, I would not use HTTP2 client in Node. We will ship support for HTTP2 in Undici, okay? It's just not a priority right now. It's not great, okay? The HTTP2 standard was really botched. Sorry to tell everybody, this is bad news. HTTP2 is bleep. Okay, HTTP3 is still not there. So Don't worry too much about HTTP2, just use HTTP1 and be good with it. Okay, if you need any of the advanced stuff for HTTP2, you'll probably want for server-to-server use gRPC. A good HTTP1 client can possibly do very much most of the stuff that HTTP2 is doing, so it's not. Does not add much, to be honest. So most of the signature features of HTTP2 were actually scrapped in the last few years. So, for example, there was HTTP2 push. There was a big deal about HTTP2 push at some point, which means that if I am fetching a resource, I can actually, the server can actually push some data to the client to be sent in parallel. Bad idea, really bad idea. Okay, it's an enormous complexity to run in production, and it's actually, counterintuitively, is actually really bad for the client too. Because the server cannot know what the client already has. So the server does not have a clue. Because the server does not have a clue, you cannot do anything about it. So the client can, the server will actually send data all the time, but you don't want to transfer data that you don't need, because otherwise you're slowing things down on the client, given the fact that a lot of people are on mobile and other things. So big time, don't HTTP2. I wrote one, by the way. So if you want one, I wrote one. It's called H2 URL. Last published 3 years ago, still works. But don't use it, okay? Like, don't use this thing. Okay, just don't. It's bad. And I use it for I use it for testing, so it's useful for me to test stuff, but not a good idea. Okay. Go for it. Okay. On which side? The client side or the server side? So like so that is actually a very, very good question. Okay. So there are a few good libraries to use. Okay. So one is, if on this word there is OEDC provide, just a second. So there is, okay, this library called OEDC provider. This is very complex though, okay? So this is a full OpenID Connect authorization server built in Node. Is written by, is maintained by Panva, by Philip. Philip is part of the Node.js team. It's also one of the senior people at Auth0, working on authentication and security. So he knows what he's talking about. Okay, so this library is very comprehensive, but you need to know a lot. You need to have a lot of knowledge to use it. Okay, it's certified. Okay, whatever. However, not for newbies. Okay, there is a library called Simple Oauth 2, I think. Yes, it's Simple Oauth 2. That's a library that I typically use and recommend to use. Not super great, not super well maintained, but I helped design it a long time ago with a friend. Now the friend moved on to other stuff, so he's not maintaining it, but he's still around. It's a good module, okay? So that's what we use in, like if you, as I said, if you use Fastify, you could use Oauth. you can actually use this library called Fastify Oauth 2, which it's just a wrapper around simple Oauth 2 for Fastify needs, and it actually implemented the full cycle already, so you don't need to worry much. It has strategies already implemented for all the major providers, so you can have the preset configs. It's already done, so no worries, it's done. Forget about it, okay? And that's great. So I would probably use this for doing that, okay? So I moved from the super complex to the super simple, okay? Another option is to, if you use Express, you could use a library called Passport. However, it does not pass my concept of a library that I would recommend to use for one reason. It only has one person as collaborators, okay? This is one of the few most important criteria that you want to have. If your library has only one person that has the publish bit, you are in big trouble. This person can burn out, have a kid, or sell the module to the Russian hackers and fly away, okay? Or just be hacked by the Russian hackers, okay? Why Russia? I'm sorry, Russia, but if you're Russian, I'm so sorry. But I really consider the fact that you being here being a good person, but your country is not. So I'm so sorry about saying this, but that's what I'm saying. So so anyway, you see that only one collaborator, okay? That's bad. You don't want to be that. You don't want to use this type of modules, okay? And by the way, this passport is super popular. So I'm not saying, okay, to be clear. We have an equivalent in Fastify. It's called Fastify Passport. It's a port of Passport to Fastify, complete rewrite. We rewrote it from scratch. Not sure why we still Passport.js as the home page. Big question, okay. Lot of collaborators. And yeah, that's it. So you just register all your plugins, and it's compatible with the Passport ecosystem, okay? But it's a port of the runtime to Fastify. So you can actually implement this on your own, okay? Okay. And okay, I'm going to talk about my favorite topic, which is testing. So if you write Node.js systems, you want to write tests. If you write Java system, you want to write automated tests. If you write .NET system, you want to write automated tests. Unless you work at Facebook, you write automated tests. They can get away without automated tests, and I have no clue how. So it's from time to time you need to admit defeat. And there are good examples of very good companies, of tech companies that are shipping without a lot of tests. But I don't know about them. Like, I know they work, but I have no clue how they could work. Okay, in the sense, what I'm saying is an alternate reality of in which you can build software without tests exist, but it's not the one where I live in. So in my world, when I write any code, I write some tests for it. So something that's really great about Fastify, okay, is that you can actually very easy write tests for it. So let's take the latest example, okay? Okay. Okay. So we have this. Okay. What we can write is a little file called test.js. Okay. And let's start with the most simple test that we want to have. Okay. So I'm going to use. So you can use a lot of different tools. Okay. If you're writing Node.js apps, there is one tool that I recommend you not to use. Jest. I'm sorry. You have heard everybody's using Jest. And I'm telling you, as a person working on Node, don't use Jest. Okay? You're setting up yourself for pain. Jest works great 90, 80% of the time. 90, 80% of the time, it's fantastic. No problem whatsoever. Amazing developer experience. Whatever. That last 2%, but it's run away. So every single team at Nearform, we have a lot of teams. Every single team that uses Jest for testing is burning at least a couple of days per month just to fight Jest issues, just to give you very basic, but not really like stuff that suddenly breaks or don't work as you would expect to. So don't use Jest, okay? If you use Node, you can test with a lot of other things. Use Mocha. Mocha is a good testing library. I like a library called Tap, but you could use literally almost whatever you want, minus Jest, okay? Don't use Jest. Like, the primary reason why I said yes, I was to add a new test framework in Node is because to do everything in place to people, don't use Jest. Like, there is no, like, it creates such a bad experience. So let me explain why. What Jest does is just basically unwind all of what Node.js is and install all of what Jest is. Basically, Jest is replacing most of the Node.js globals and most of the Node.js runtime with something that quacks like Node 90, 80% of the time. The last 2%, it's, you know, it's, if Node quacks, Jest howls, okay? It's, you know, one is a duck, the other one is a wolf. Like, there are no completely unrelated beasts, okay? And you will be having a really bad time in certain cases, okay? Like, in certain cases, instance of does not work. You have an error object, and you do the error that you've got, and you do instance of the error class. Oh, this is if you print it, it says it's an error, right? But instance of error returns false. It's bizarre, okay? Well, it's not bizarre. There are obvious internal motivations for it. However, if you're not a Node core developer, or if you're not a framework developer, or a Jest maintainer, understanding and solving those problems is a complete waste of time to some extent. You will learn a lot, but it makes no sense, okay? Some of those are actually very simple to reproduce, which is, again, bizarre, okay? Anyway, going for it for the test. So what I'm doing, it's what you can do is you can just const test. You can get test from tap. Then you can write your test. and you can pass an async thingy, and then you can create a Fastify app. Okay? Then what you can do is register, require app.js. Okay, we are loading your app. Okay, then I can do await app inject and then say the t equal res status code $200. Okay, and then what you can do is the tear down. Okay. So now I need to close this. Okay. Now I need to npm. I think I still have it. Okay, you can see that now I'm running my code, and I just run it, and it says subtest. It's not nice to read. Okay, if I want some nicer output, I can do npx tap test. This is my test file, okay? And you can see that, well, it's now running everything. So test.js. Okay. Now it's running. It has run. This is also a CLI tool to do all the things. Jest provides still a better user developer experience, to be honest. I'm honest. So I give credit where credit is due, but I would not recommend to use Jest for anything. For testing browser stuff, it's great. Provides a lot of facility for browsers. For Node, use tap or something else. Okay.
One thing to point out, unrelated, the npx command, if you're not familiar with what that's doing, right? It actually will go out to npm. You already have that installed. It'll go out, download it, install it, and then run it locally. So if you just be aware, right? You are again trusting strangers on the internet. You npx, whatever. We're going to download and run that code under your permission, your account, right? So whatever you can do, it can do. Just be aware of what you're running.
No. Well, maybe, but who knows?
A lot of the way that it works is very intentional. And since it works 90% of the time with excellent developer experience, and in a lot of cases, it just does exactly what it needs to do, and nobody else needs to do something different. But when you do think of that cases, it becomes very, very impactful, very, very
Okay. Let me go into okay. So let's open Jest and let's see. I need okay. Okay. By the way, Simon is a great developer. He's a maintainer of Node.js and a lot of. There is nothing here said about the maintainers of Jest. The maintainers of Jest are great. Okay.
And Jest is now part of the
It's great. Okay. I'm not saying it's not great. It's great. Okay. So still, why is part of the OpenJS Foundation and is still? Okay, you haven't migrated it yet. Okay. So Jest. Okay. So let's do this. Okay. So bug. Okay. Cool. So okay. Let's say that we have this test. Okay. So we do npx jest debug. Okay. Fine, this fails, expected. Okay, great developer experience, by the way. Now, let me show you. So this is one of the modules from core. It's called Assert. Okay, so equals to 2. Good. Okay, Assert. Strict equal. Okay. Works as expected, right? Now. So what happens if I launch Assert? So let me write a small file. Okay, so let's say that I have here Assert, and then I do module.exports function, and this is num, and I do strict equal, that num equals 2. Okay, very simple, very stupid code. Okay, so now what you can do is that you can do require.main equals module to know if this module is being executed as a main file. So now I can do, let's do this. Okay. Okay, so I do try problem 3, and I catch okay. You would expect this to be true all the time, right? So if I run node problem, true. Cool. So let's see if they fixed it, because they might have fixed it. So now, if I'm doing in here, I'm doing problem, great. Then I'm doing try problem catch. Actually, sorry. It says false. What? So expect instance of error to be true. What? But if I run the code, it says true, but it's false.
The reason why it comes up false is it just makes use of other contexts. So you have like the VM module in Node, you can run code in another context. Within JavaScript, so that context is the kind of scope of your global, right? So when you're running it in one of the context, error, that couple of error, it's still an error, but it's not the same error instance as running in the main context, right? So when you create an object over in that other context and pass it back, instance of will no longer work.
Now, okay, let's go back to, let's circle this back in, because it's actually even funnier, okay? You know about GraphQL. Do you know about GraphQL? You know that GraphQL is written by Facebook, was invented by Facebook as it's used just for testing. Cool. So I'm going to even be going totally meta on the topic. So if you go and open up the GraphQL repo, and I'm telling you how I figured this out, because, so you see that assert module is not, so all the errors, if you're using Jest, all the errors that are coming from Node have a different error object. However, in GraphQL, code. Is it? No. Maybe they actually fixed it. Is it? Ah, okay. Is, okay, they refactored it. Can't find it, sorry. So basically, GraphQL had a library as an instance of check on error that failed when used with ingest, making it completely bizarre because there were errors that were emitted from Node, and there were tests that we could not make pass because, and the team was just like, what is happening? I am having, this is working, and so on, because they were actually using Assert to validate certain function parameter calls, and they couldn't. Let me see if I can find it. It's, okay. If I'm searching for instance of, okay, it's is type of, I think is instance of. Okay. Hmm? Sorry?
In one of the files that was shown previously, they had a custom instance of.
Yeah.
As from the comments, looked like it might have been trying to check if it was.
Yeah, totally. Like they went, they kept wrapping things up to avoid the problem. It's, as I'm saying, it's, I'm not a fan of Jest, okay? I think it causes more problems than what's, like, to provide that level of user experience, it does too many hacks on the runtime to be of any good, okay? But up to you to decide. So Node.js now ships a tiny testing framework in case you need one. So big time, happy days, okay? Any other questions on the things? Cool, okay. So we covered the navigate the ecosystem. Okay, let's go back to the training. We have finished the chapter 2 mocking. We are moving to the next step. Okay, I would recommend we do the going real time is a little bit too much work probably. Let's do building CLI tools. Building CLI tools is great. Okay, it's one of the skills. Is a building your own tools and your own automation is a phenomenal skill to master. It gives you superpowers to some extent because you can automate some of your work. So let's move forward, blah, blah, blah. So let's start creating a tiny command line tool. Okay, what you do, and you will you can see if you start following the things, you will see that it's you will see that you you can specify a bin script, okay? And the bin is actually the command that will be executed. And it's great, so that when you install Node.js, npm install your module, that command will be automatically working, okay? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I will let you go and start doing it. You know, there are 7 steps. Let's go and do until step 7, okay? And let me know if there is any blockers. I will put a little bit of a timer, and that's it, okay? I'm tired. Folks, if doing this step, you are seeing that it requires to call another API, whatever, fake it, mock it, okay? Build a small server that returns that API. It's fine. All good? All good. OK. OK, this is actually a great question. How would you handle environment variables across different stages? OK, so I'm going to try to show you what library I use. OK, so I use this module called .env. This is built in inside Fastify CLI, essentially. So this is my go-to solution. OK. .env, it's great. And here it is. So what you do is you can specify .env. You can create a .env file, and you can populate it with your data. OK? And basically, each one of your, so if you need to develop locally, you create your own copy of the .env file. Thank you. And if you need to use the .env, if you have different stages and different deploy system and so on, you essentially just use environment variables. You don't create a .env file at all. So you specify your environment variables in your container configuration, launch configuration, or whatever. So there is no configuration whatsoever that is environment dependent on your code. Putting your configuration inside your code, it's a massive anti-pattern, and you should not be doing it. You will see a few examples out there that use a thing called Node_env. How many of you have seen Node_env around? Okay. Don't rely on Node_env for anything. It's bad. A few libraries want you to set Node_env equals production to work in production mode. Okay? Don't use Node_env to load the config files, because you want the staging environment to run with the same configuration of the production environment, more or less. So you want Node_env set to production in the staging environment. And if you're looking up your environment from Node_env, then you're screwed, essentially. Express invented Node_env. So it's super bad. Like, it's one of the worst things that could have happened to Node.js. Probably first there is Mongoose, then there is Node_env or something like that. So Node_env is great. I use .env most of the time. Okay. However, it's not. There are other solutions to the problem. Okay. For example, I'm going to show you a few modules that we have developed at Nearform. Okay, so at Nearform, we use this other approach for secrets. Okay, let's say that you want to. Sorry. And a lot of repos. Secrets, okay, so. Okay. Just a second, what's the name of the module? Oh, Fastify Secrets Core. Okay. So at Nearform, we have developed this other technique, okay? Called Fastify Secrets, okay? A lot of the time, those environment variables, you need to load up keys for accessing other services and secrets of any kind. You don't want to set those as environment variables, because if you do that, it will be easier for an attacker to extrapolate them from a lot of places. So it's just less safe. Okay, it's not safe. It's considered not safe as a best practice to include secrets in environment variables. So where do you store them? You need to store them in a secret manager, a secret configuration manager. There is one in AWS. There is one done by HashiCorp called HashiCorp Vault. There is one from AWS. There's one from GCP. There's one for Azure. Everybody has one, okay? So what you've done is that we have basically created a high-level interface so that you could fetch your secret as part of the Fastify start cycle from those sources. So you don't need to worry too much about it, and you just can essentially get the data that you need from those places. So I hope I give the good answer to the topic of how do I get the configuration. So never store the config file. If your project has a folder called config and you have dev.yaml, staging.yaml in, and those types of stuff, yeah, that's bad. Okay, don't do that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's not great. Okay. Does it make sense? And by the way, that was very popular, made popular by Ruby on Rails back in the days. So I'm not saying it's. We have decided that was not a good way of doing things. I don't know if Ruby on Rails still does it, but we don't do it in Node. Doesn't work. Okay. .env is great. It creates this .env file. You will just find all the content of that file as environment variables. So you will find them as process.env in your system. So super easy. Make sense? What is this .env vault? Cool. Didn't know, it's a new thing. .env shipped actually a new system. So there is even now one from .env. Very interesting. Cool, didn't know. Happy days. I've learned something new. Cool. Amazing. Is there anything else? So let me talk a little bit more on some next step, okay? So a good part of what Node.js is the community. You will meet a bunch of new people at this event, this conference. So talk to them. Everybody's very friendly. You'll see a lot of maintainers here. So maintainers of Node, maintainers of GraphQL, maintainers of everything. So just show up and say hi. They're probably going to be very helpful for you. Make sense? And so you might want to get started into contributing back. So the Node.js, the NPM community and the Node community are massive in that sense. So if you find a bug, you might want to help out with fixing that bug. Mostly because if you open an issue, a lot of people will not fix the bug for you. Okay? It's not, don't think that open source means that there is free support. I'm going to be very transparent, okay? There's no free support. So if you want support, you pay for support. And you find somebody that you want to pay for support, okay? Or you throw money at your maintainers, which also works. Maintainers are almost beggars these days. So throw money in my bucket, I will jump like a monkey. And, you know, that's about more or less. So that's a way to fix the problem. But to be honest, the best way for you to learn more about this ecosystem is to contribute back. So find yourself one project or one community that's very inclusive with newbies. And start contributing back. It's the best way to learn. It's how I've learned back in the days. And it's still probably the best way to learn this. Every single one of the most of the various leaders and in this community and big speakers at conferences and so on and so forth have learned it more or less in that way. So they've started small, contributing to some libraries, and then they've climbed up from there. Usually each one of the big open source community, they are more or less job machines. I'm going to be very straightforward. It's a fantastic way to climb back from whatever situation you want to climb out. So it's a phenomenal ladder to get out of horrible places, okay, or horrible working places. So I have a lot of stories when the camera is off, if you want to come and ask. A lot of stories about it, but it's a great way to build a career, okay? So the important part is find a community where your contributions are valued. Some of them will have like a good first issue, like labels for newcomers. Others will be saying very openly, well, we welcome contributions of any kind and so on and so forth, okay? For some, the contribution bar is actually high because it's actually very hard, okay? So I'm not saying that contributing to Node is easy. Contributing to Node.js is actually complicated, okay? It's not as, because most of the stuff is actually very complicated by its nature, okay? The easy fruits, it's like it's been, everything easy has been picked already, okay? For example, okay, we have in Fastify, we have a contribute page where we list our good first issues of the project. So you can actually come and see, you know, where people want help. So it's actually very easy to climb this. There are other good sites, like if you look at good first issue, you can actually see that there is a full website where you can find good first issue stuff, okay? So I'm not saying that there's plenty, okay? And that welcome, essentially, welcome newcomers to contribute. This is the best way to learn. So what's next? Okay, you can, one of the ways is get a certifications, next steps, okay? Shameless plug of the Linux Foundation material, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So it's actually coming full circle. So we started the work designing the Node certifications back in, last time we were in Austin. So we were here at this conference, in this venue. This is coming full circle. I think it was 2017. I'm going to check. It was Node plus Node.js interactive. 2017? North America. This was Portland, I think.
What about Montreal?
Yeah, no, but this is Montreal. This is probably Node.js interactive. 2016. Yes. Okay. Was 2016. We started designing the Node.js certification in 2016. At this same venue, we had the first meeting of the working group. Okay. So we were here on the November 29th, December 2, 2016, at this same venue, this same location. It's just 6 years ago. We were starting planning this. Took a few years to launch. Let's put a veil on how much time it took to ship. If you think anything takes long, double it and triple it. And the more people involved, the more companies involved, it's worse it gets. So anyway, there are two certifications. One is the Node application developer, and the other one is the Node service developer. Two different levels. One is more senior than the others, okay? They are essentially a continuum of this material, essentially. It's in my experience, they are very good, okay? I've seen a lot. They are probably, studying for it is probably worth your time, okay? Taking the actual test, we are at a Linux Foundation conference, so it's totally great to spend your employer's money in getting the piece of paper, okay? I hope that passed the message, okay? It's totally great, okay? If it's yourself and if you want to get this as an individual, okay? Ask around for some discount codes and happy days, okay? There's probably some discounts running around for individuals every now and then that you can pick up on, okay? However, preparing for it is actually great, okay? I really like the content. It's solid, okay? It's not a tick box exercise. They're actually, it teaches the fundamental of the project, okay? So I would recommend you all to take a look. And they sell a few good bundles on the websites. So if you open it up, there is, they send good bundles of both the, sorry, shows up. So basically they send it, so basically you see that there is a course and the course plus the exam, okay? I would actually like, the course is actually very good material. The exam gives you a piece of paper on the material, essentially. But the course is, you have seen the format, okay? It's very similar to what we have done today. And it's probably prepared by one of the best trainers I ever worked with, I have the honor of working with, which is David. So I cannot say anything more than that. And doing a little bit of a sales pitch for the material, okay? It's great. And again, David McClem for if you need to throw eggs about the content of the material and the certification, throw it at David McClem. It's his stuff, it's not mine, okay? I'm here to answer questions. And if you didn't like my delivery today, you could throw eggs at me, okay? You see there is, for the delivery of today, you can throw eggs at me, but for all the content is David, is not mine, okay? And yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I'm probably staying around for another, I don't know, half an hour if you have questions about anything, but if you are done and want to go, can go. I'll just stay here to answer questions for half an hour, help out whoever wants to help out, and so on. My level of exhaustion is going down. I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, so my energy is going down. So it's I'm less and less active. So thank you. It was really nice. Enjoy the conference tomorrow, and have fun. Thank you.